Hi, Easy here. Welcome to a kind of a long overdue video for somebody who says that he's a content creator for Lost Ark. This is going to be some launch notes. Essentially, it's a spreadsheet that I've created that kind of brings together all of the really great resources and content that other creators have created, and just kind of organizing in a way for how it makes sense for me. There's a huge disclaimer here on the welcome page that says these are not factual priorities and truths about week 1 and beyond progress of the game. It is not min-maxed. I reference some min-max guys, and I am trying to min-max, but I'm by no means claiming that this is truly min-maxed. And once again, it's purely for my personal enjoyment, and these are personal notes for what I'm prioritizing and working on when I first head into the game on Tuesday. So there's different sections here. This spreadsheet is not really that complete because, quite frankly, um, it's a bit overwhelming to make a guide of this kind of caliber and size, and other people have done it to a much better job than I have. So this is simply notes and just kind of what I find to be important for myself. So hopefully you guys find it to be helpful on your side as well. But let's get started with just leveling priority. This is something that I've seen a lot. People ask about how do I level? How do I what skills do I use? What quests do I do? Etc. etc. And if you want to do your side quests, you can go ahead and do your side quests. That's no big deal. The game is ultimately for your own enjoyment and your progress. If you want to min-max and try to level up as fast as humanly possible, you just skip every side quest and only do main quests. But I I'm personally going to be approaching it from that route of trying to hit max level as soon as I can. But if you want to enjoy exploring the continents, exploring the regions, exploring your leveling, listening to stories, by all means go for it. There is a leveling build guide that's here. Someone else did this incredible amount of work compiling every single release classes leveling. It's a bit in depth, and you don't really have to like follow it like word by word. He goes into it with every single level. I believe his name is Mouth. So if you want to go support him, go ahead. There's just a lot of content here, and quite frankly, I don't even think I can keep up with all of this as I'm leveling. Just the general rule of thumb is you want to prioritize increasing your uh, skill levels as much as possible. Certain tripods have really big breakpoints, and you can kind of tell which ones are important, such as this quick step skill here that clearly has a focus because it's spec'd in so quickly for gunslingers, for example. But you can just kind of use this as your reference guide for your own class um, before server launches. So tonight. Um, this next part that I've put as T1 is specifically for progressing through Tier 1 for me. So essentially, my first step is hit 50. Obviously, other people's priorities are going to be different. And for some people, literally getting to level 50 might be every single step for them. But I'm trying to get to a point where I'm happy with my progress early when I'm taking all my days off from work so that I am at a place where I can just knock out my dailies and um, try to be efficient with the limited time that I have as much as possible. So my first step is hit level 50, and then I'm gonna go ahead and run Chaos Dungeon for 302 gear, and then Guardian raids the highest that I can do, which should be Urunir. Sorry, Lumerous. I forgot the order changed. And then do my daily Eponas or Unas. I don't recall what they're actually translated to. You do have the option of completing the Shoeshire quest line, and I believe EU players are going to be doing Shoeshire because they won't be able to level fast enough in time for reset. But because NA has just about 3 hours, give or take, to do our first set of dailies, um, that's not enough time to do Shoeshire and the dailies. So I'm gonna be focusing on doing the dailies and then hit Shoeshire and then take care of that storyline. Um, and that should be the end of day one after you finish your opponent. So obviously, day one, you have four. For me, I'm focusing on these four tasks, and if I can successfully do these before the first day of reset, I'll be very happy. And then the very next thing that I'm gonna start doing, probably probably wouldn't have slept here, because I'm gonna no life it, but I encourage you guys to take breaks. Um, is going to be island hopping for upgrade materials. There's a lot of I'm gonna go into in depth here in just a second, but going through islands for different upgrade materials, and then once that's complete, which should take about 2-3 hours, go to Shoeshire, finish the quest line. This is probably the point where I slept because this is incredibly boring and tedious. Um, and there's a quest line that makes you sneak and do like an hour-long simulator that you fail, you have to restart. It's one of the worst story quests that I've ever seen. So this is a very slept. I might pass out here. And then as soon as I probably wake up, I'm gonna go ahead and do all my dailies again as quickly as I can. And then see if I can do Abyss Dungeon depending on my item level, depending on how fast I can actually progress. And then possibly do dungeon spams to make sure I get to Rohendo, um, and try to get to Rohendo before the end of the second day. So day 2 reset happens. I'm gonna try and knock out the Rohendo quest line. Once again, this is all assuming that I can get to 460 within the first 2 days, which I don't know. I don't know if I can, or whether it's gated, whatever it might be. Maybe you just need a little bit more time. But try and get to the Abyss dungeon by the end of the third day, which should be Thursday, so that I can get both the Vern and Rohendo Abyss Dungeon weekly tickets completed, so that when the weeklies reset on Thursdays, I can do another week of Rohendo and Vern Abyss Dungeons. So this is the point where I'm going to be taking a break. Obviously, after you get to the weekly reset, the sake of efficiency really goes down because quite frankly, um, you I encourage you guys to take breaks. Just enjoy the game. Don't get so caught up in this feeling that you're gonna miss out. You aren't. You really aren't. There's plenty of things to do. There's plenty of things that other people will be behind on because side quests, sure, you can rush to hit level 50 and you might be level 50 first, but you're not gonna have the tertiary stats that you get from side quests to be able to do report grinding and such, and all of the other things that are associated with that. So don't feel like you're missing out on anything. Just go at your own personal pace. This, once again, is just for my own personal pace. One thing I'm going to go over is kind of the island reward map. Once again, this is not created by me. I did not make this, but I find this to be a very good resource for people to reference. So obviously you can see some of the color-coded enchanting materials for T1, T2, and engravings. This isn't a comprehensive list. There are islands that are missing, which I've kind of listed here for my reference for myself. So these are the islands that I'm going to be doing when I when I when the first day of reset comes in. So as soon as I'm done with the first day's opponents, I'm gonna start doing island hopping because these islands give a good amount of materials that you won't find um, through dailies. The amount of quantity that comes in is significantly higher than you get from dailies um, on a single instance. So obviously these are one time per account, which means that your alts progress are going to be significantly slower, but your main you can really accelerate quickly into T2 and T3 by taking advantage of these one-time quest rewards from islands. You also want to knock out a lot of these because these will give you island hearts. Some of them give you island hearts directly, while others give you the ability to unlock island hearts in the future by doing reputation quests and opponents, etc., etc. So the order is written here: Serenity, Black Fang, Freedom, Total Silver, etc., etc. Some of these reward actual materials, other ones reward pirate coins, and other ones are going to give you C token boxes. These C token boxes, initially you might feel like you want to use it to trade in for pirate coins, but I'm just going to tell you right now, you want to save minimum of 51 because there are really, really critical and beneficial trade-ins that you can do in the future, which will give you access to other account progress items, which once again, I'll go in just a second, that will help you get the ones that have some of the hardest, grindiest kind of difficulty curve when it comes to acquiring them if you don't have these C token boxes. Um, I have a link to the information. Maybe it's here somewhere. I believe this might be it. It's in Korean, but the general idea is that these C tokens can be traded for something like um, Sun token, which you can only get from doing sea cooperative missions in the Papnica continent near that area. And there are very few people who are going to be available to do that content, and there will be even less people who are actually prioritizing that content. But this gives you a star. It gives you an Orpus star, which is incredibly valuable when you're trying to go for skill points. So there's a little bit of trust that you need to have when I say hella save these, because it's for your own good. Okay. I haven't gotten around to listing out the T2 islands because this does take a little bit of time for me to scan through all of the islands that have specific rewards, and other people have made a list of islands that you should visit, but I haven't gone through and actually made the actual list of where I want to hit these depending on the route, like I did with T1. But this will get updated. The spreadsheet itself will get updated as soon as I hit T2. This is going to be at a point where I don't have to be so efficient with my time. So I'll have a little bit more leeway. I'll probably do this on stream, trying to figure all this out. So there's a little bit of information on island hopping. And next we get to something that not a lot of people will think about initially, and that's it's gonna be your account progress. In Korean, it's called daeshil, and it refers to every single kind of collectible and account progress that's not directly your item level. So there's gonna be a huge difference between two accounts that have the same max item level character that has different skill points. So for example, if you have one account that's at item level 1300 that has every single skill point possible, that's going to be significantly stronger and more capable than one that's maybe at like 1370 with minimal skill points. So this is going to be account progress that I'm approaching it from a PvE oriented priority. So this is specifically for skill points and runes, which make a huge impact on your play, as well as what kind of options you have in combat. So first off is obviously skill points. You need skill points to be able to spec your skills and level up your skills past level 10, as well as unlocking all of the important tripods. And when you go from 11 to, or level 10 to level 11 and then level 12 and mastering the skill, you have some significant damage increases that you can expect from your main DPS skills. So skill points are critical to your success and your damage output. Next is runes. So I have a little information here. There's obviously max rolls, skill runes. It doesn't go into too much detail about like what you need to focus on. Well, maybe they do. Strategy, yeah, they do go into a little bit of focus on it, but generally, Korean priority is for very specific runes, which is going to be swiftness. So this is the one that increases your attack speed, uh, or your cast speed, your animation speed. It increases your animation speed of whatever skill you attach this rune to. And the only way you can get these is from guardian raids, and you want multiple copies of these at every single every single guardian difficulty tier. And there's 6 difficulties, so you want to try and get as many tiers as you possibly can, because you can't stack the same tier from what I remember, but you can stack different tiers for your runes. So this is really important. Then there's the bleed rune, which adds a lot of flat damage to your to a skill that that has a low cooldown. So some classes benefit a lot more from this than others. Classes that have lower cooldown do benefit a lot more versus a class that doesn't have any short cooldowns. Um, so you get these mostly from Peyton's NPC. This is going to be your most reliable source. There's an NPC named Lutia, who's going to give you this if you manage to increase your report to the highest level, I believe. but it also drops some field bosses, which are a little bit more RNG, obviously. But that's why one of the report priorities is this Ludia person, and then there's one that reduces your skill cooldown based on a chance, and this comes from Tower of Fate. There's Judgment. I forgot the name. Judgment and Conviction. This is like a combo rune that's it's really beneficial for some classes. Other classes are not as they don't prioritize this because they simply can't make use of it well. There's also going to be one of the better ones. One of the most important ones is going to be overwhelm. Is it what do they wealth? They translate it to wealth, but this increases your identity meter gain by up to 40% with 5 Omnium stars. And for certain classes, like for example, Bard or Paladin or Deathblade or Sorceress, who relies heavily on their identities gauge refilling, they're going to benefit very, very heavily from these runes, even more so than, let's say, if a flat 5% damage increase rune existed. These wealth runes are extremely, extremely good. So getting Giant's Hearts for that blue one, getting a Minion Stars for that legendary one are going to be extremely high priority for some classes. Other classes obviously don't benefit from them if they don't rely on their identities as their main resource. But there's a lot of classes that benefit from a rune like that. So you can just kind of use these as a reference guide. I know one of them in Korean, the other one in English. So try to make do what you can. If you if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to leave it down in the comments below, and I'll always try to answer them. Next section is going to be engravings. So engravings, I'm not going into too much detail about the entire strategy of how you should go about spending your money and spending your gold to get your engraving points up and whatnot. But in general, engravings are just stupid expensive. Like no matter what class you play, I know there's a lot of people talking about efficiency of certain classes. Some classes are inherently cheaper to get all these engraving books than others, and that's true. You know, if you look here, some of the highest priced engraving books, especially for class engravings, are gonna be for like Sorceress. There's a Blade. There's the new Artist class. This is Korea server, obviously, so they have Artist. They have Lance Master and Berserker. But engravings in general, when you get to a very min-max state in the end game, are gonna be expensive no matter what. So one of the best things you can do is try and save costs and save gold as much as possible on engravings um, throughout all stages. That should be your main priority when it comes to engraving. That should be the limiting factor. It's always going to be gold. So I kind of go over some of the basic concepts of how you can kind of save on some of those costs. So if your class, especially classes like supports, can take advantage of a little bit cheaper engravings like Spirit Absorption. Um, they have the armor plating, which is incredibly helpful for bards. But if you are able to take advantage of these cheaper engravings and still gain a lot of benefit at a similar level early on, your overall cost of engravings are going to go down exponentially. So if you're playing a DPS class that has 3 or 4 similarly um, powerful engravings, maybe you can drop that grudge because it's 20%. It's the best one, but it also comes with a pretty severe penalty of 20% damage taken. Maybe if you go with a one that gives you about 16 to 17% damage increase, you know, people are not gonna like me hearing. People aren't gonna like me saying this, but I wouldn't really care if they have everything all set up properly. That 3% damage difference is not going to be what determines your clear. It's going to be the player and how you play as a team. So there are ways that you can save on engravings. And one important thing is that engraving books that you learn, not the engravings that are on your accessories, are shared across your account. So I put a list a short list of classes that do share very niche kind of engraving books that might be cheaper. So Awakening, I don't know if it's gonna be cheap, but Awakening, there are a few classes that benefit very strongly from this, and those are mainly Paladin and Bards. If you're a diehard support main, getting this Awakening engraving book to 12 is one of the best ways that you can invest your gold. If you play Deathblade, maybe you want to main Deathblade, and then you're like, okay, I got my supercharge engraving book. What other class can I play that makes use of this? Well, Lonely Knight Gunlancer is one of those classes. Berserker sometimes takes supercharge as like a cheaper alternative if you have classes that already if you already had supercharge. You also got engravings like Master of Strikes. If you're playing Gunslinger, or if you're playing Sorceress, Master of Strikes gives you damage increase for non-head and non-back attacks, which means if you find another class like a Gunslinger or Sorceress, and you find it to be an attractive class that you want to play as an alt, you can make use of the same engraving across those two characters, saving you costs if you were to make this a legendary engraving book. There's multiple ways to kind of navigate the cost associated with engravings, and it's obviously going to depend on the economy of our servers in NA specifically. But having these options at your disposal and just being aware of what kind of options you have at your disposal to increase your character power using engraving books is very important. I don't have a list of where you get all these engraving books and like what kind of sources and how you farm them, etc., etc. There's gonna be hopefully more comprehensive uh, guide that I do in the future as it becomes more and more relevant to more people around the 1370 gear point, item level gear point. But this is just the notes that I have right now, so you can just keep in mind, like, yeah, engravings are going to cost you a lot of money. Let's think about ways and think about engravings that I do want to use for my characters that I might be playing. Skill points, there's a link to a skill point guide for both Korean and English. Um, Obviously, they have the same information, just written out differently. There's a collection strategy on max roll that they do a really good job of. There's also in Korean version just a nice overview and reference of all of the uh, locations that you can find. It's same information, but just organized differently. Um, they also have links to specific strategies that you might want to do, etc., etc. So skill points should be straightforward. There's plenty of resources for you to be able to find skill points, uh, how to find skill points. So don't hesitate to ask me questions, but there's also plenty of resources that you can find. Life skills is a little bit different. It's changed significantly since I made my last video, which is like what 2.5 years ago. But in Korea, it has changed quite a lot, and essentially, um, every single skill, every single life skill is gonna share the same life skill energy, and your priority should be to spend this energy. And early on, I genuinely think you want to try and get as many of these world tree leaves as possible, and you just get this by doing the actual life skill activities, but there's a limit to how many you can get per activity. So if you just want to do botany, you're more than welcome to, but you're going to be missing out on some of these tree leaves, which means you want to try and branch out early on as much as possible and try doing all 6 life skills as often as you can, depending on your needs for your estate or your crafting, whatever it might be, to try and farm up as many of these trees. Because when you collect 48 of them, it transforms your little trinket, your talisman, so that it gives you additional rewards. And it's really, really, really efficient for you to be able to get to 48 and start farming from that point, because these bonuses are incredibly strong. Um, there's like you have a 25% additional chance to get an extra item, as well as increasing your mastery level of any given life skill by +3, etc., etc. So it's really, really strong. I encourage you guys to just try every single life skill as much as you can early on, and then once you get to the end game, and you start farming for gold more so than actual specific materials, because you can most likely buy those specific materials from the marketplace. You want to do archaeology. That's the meta right now for life skilling. Just doing archaeology out in the wild, in open field gathering, spending your life skill energy points. And then if you get platinum field tokens, platinum field passes, because there is no limit to how quickly you can gather. Well, there's 15-minute limit, but there is no energy limit. You can gather as much as you can. You want to do botany because botany has a perk called Golden Fingers, which increases your gathering speed and your um, I think reward, the amount of reward you get. So that's what the most efficient strategy in Korea is. But most importantly, you can do whatever you actually enjoy, because as you get further into the end game of gathering and life skilling, you're gonna be looking at tools, and tools are incredibly powerful. If you played, like, for example, New World, you know how beneficial some of the higher end tools can be. They save time, they give you more resources. It's just better, right? But these tools, after you get past the epic tier, gets extremely, extremely expensive. So if you want to focus and you want to invest into a tool, I highly encourage you guys to just do one. Don't try and branch out every single one. I mean, if you want to, you can. If you have the money, you can. But it's gonna be far less efficient if you try to max out all of your tools with like relic tier tools, because you still have the same amount of energy as everyone else. So just try and focus on one. Just spend the gold that you would getting those tools for five other life skills on getting your actual gear up +1 a little bit more. For report, this is one section that I haven't really completed because I am just not sure how much time I'll have to do reports on the first week. Nor do I know how much secondary stats, or sorry, not secondary, tertiary stats like charm, charisma, diligence, all of this I'll have at the end of the first couple of days. So I don't know which ones I can start romancing, but your safe bet is going to be Sasha, Beatrice, and if you can get to the west, at Rohendo on the day 2, like Calabasas on the Eye of Hypnotis Island, as well as Ludia in Peyton. But Peyton is obviously much, much higher item level, almost approaching tier 3, so that's going to be a little bit later. But you also have all these other NPCs that you can try and increase your report in. So there's a lot of options. I'll have an English version with kind of what I'm prioritizing very soon. It's obviously not complete. And the last section is just kind of random notes that I've made early on. There's some stuff about like getting songs, specific songs with pirate coins, farming pirate coins, where you get pirate coins, what islands you can visit, just Epona's quests, reputation rewards. I'll give you gold and pirate coins, etc., etc. Some links, but what you can what the whole point of this spreadsheet is just for you to reference and have a quick reference point for you to jump off of. It's by no means comprehensive, it's by no means the Bible, but it's hopefully helpful for people who are just wanting to get an idea of what they need to focus on, what they need to prioritize, what they should care about. If you care about the game like I do, and what hopefully gives you an avenue for you to be able to think about the game in your own enjoyment and your own priority, based on the information that I've been able to gather. So hopefully this has been helpful. I'm gonna be streaming the leveling process and first couple days pretty much nonstop. Hopefully you guys can join me. Uh, Other than that, I'm really freaking hyped. I'm really excited. I don't know if I can sleep tonight, but uh, hopefully, once again, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, subscribe, etc., etc. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.